All right, Nima. We are live, sir.
What's happening, man?
How are you?
Good. Glad to be here. Looking
Yeah.
forward to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it.
And you're busy? Tell us where you're at.
I'm on the island of Grenada in the Caribbean. It's peak season. Uh, you can't get any more peak in the Caribbean than February 28th. Everybody's coming down because it's cold up north, and I'm frankly glad that I don't have to deal with the brunt of it anymore. I have my son doing that, but yeah, I hear about it all the time.
Yeah. Long time hotel operator turned tech
Yeah.
guru.
Who lives in a hotel
Lives in a
talking to you
hotel.
from a, and I just realized both my children who are, 24 and 25, both of them, they've never lived anywhere outside of a hotel.
Oh gosh.
To tell you, like, that's a thing.
That is a thing.
They're gonna be, they're gonna have their own lives at some point. They're gonna decide, hey, what does it mean to have like neighbors?
Yeah. That's funny. That's interesting. Well, it's a good segue because most founder I've said this before, and I don't really don't mean any offense to anyone, but most founder stories are garbage. I mean, a lot of marketing people are like, man, you need a founder story, and you most of the time you don't. However, there are some rare exceptions, and you would be one of those rare exceptions as a long time hotel operator that was frustrated with a problem and you went out to solve it. So why don't you just kind of quickly tell us how you got here?
Yeah, so initially the whole thing was I wasn't going to my intention was never to solve any problem. I just thought, okay, how can I get more bookings? So I'd head down that road and I thought we could get it through the website. And I started doing some work at hey, what's going on the website? Let me check it out. And I got a clue that there might be people browsing the website and maybe I should get some live chat capability on there. So I put in this little widget and, started chatting. I saw, holy moly, there's a lot of people on here and they keep asking questions all the time. I would literally, like, I would be going and dropping off a guest at like the airport, and I would have to pull over to the side of the road and start texting people to answer their questions and all sorts of questions, bookings and stuff like that. And so it was great. I realized there's this total untapped opportunity and to grab these people, have a personal connection. Um, but I realized very quickly I couldn't do it by myself, and my staff couldn't do it at all. And so it was this existing channel sitting on our website, and it was untapped. So that's how it started.
And you've got two properties, one small, one large. So you have the larger hotel's got a larger staff, and it's just I can't imagine somebody at the front desk having to stop like you you're having to pull over to the side of the road.
Yeah, yeah,
But you're working the front desk, you got all these people you're trying to check in and do this and do that, and then you got to stop and answer questions,
yeah, yeah. And there's so
probably
many.
in multiple languages too.
Yeah, and not only that, the thing was, and our second property actually during the pandemic became larger. We added 16 rooms, did all that construction, everything. So the capacity of both hotels now is being able to handle all this conversation. You can't do it. There's too many things that people are busy doing at front desk. Um, Frankly, all around, so that you can't try to get somebody to just lock in onto one job at the front desk. They can't. They're handling emails, phone calls. They're dealing with the guests in front of them. They're trying to source things for people, but they're dealing with other staff members. It's the central hub of what's going on in a hotel. And
Y
so the last thing they're thinking about is, let me go answer somebody's website questions, you know?
yeah. So you wanted to put a chatbot on your website to handle what you just described, and that was a couple of years ago, so it's evolved, but at the beginning, what was happening? Because there's other chatbots, a chatbot's a chatbot's a chatbot, and I think there's been an evolution over the past 2 years or more. But
Yeah.
tell us about the beginning and then walk us through to today.
Yeah, so during that pandemic, I started to build this concept. I made a list of all the questions anybody could ask. And there were like 150 questions. And I thought to myself, okay, let's roll it out very, very light inside the Caribbean, try with some of our, friend hotels and see what we get. And, the thing started taking off. Um, it was still basic, but it was working. And and to this day, the moment that you install this chat widget on the website, the numbers just skyrocket because it's always you've never seen anybody there, so it's always zero. And then all of a sudden you put it in there and you wonder where did these people come from? So you see this boom, everything starts shooting up, and it started to ramp up. So we added questions like in the beginning, I never thought about questions that just never happened to us, like bonfire. What do I know about a bonfire? But bonfires happen. I was talking to a hotelier in North Carolina. He's like, yeah, that's the thing that happens. Or like skiing. I'm in the Caribbean. What do I know about skiing? So, um, but yeah, so we added it, and it became larger and larger. And what we found was that it was initially. Remember, I got into it because I thought it was going to be more bookings, but I realized yeah, beside more bookings, and there are bookings that come through it. It's not, again, to give you a very realistic picture of this, yes, you get bookings through the live chat, especially when a person is able to step in. And the virtual assistants of these days can actually do that too. But what we actually found with your help is it turns out it's saving staff time in a massive, massive way. And I can give you more specifics as to how that happens. But yeah, so that's where we are. And then, of course, we can talk about the advent of Chat GPT and what that's done to the whole thing.
Yeah, well, talk to us about the time savings that you've. I mean, I think you're measuring time
Right.
savings, right?
Yes, yes, we did. And in fact, again, thanks to a group of consultants who really looked at this stuff and said, wait, but you guys can measure how many minutes somebody's on the site and when they're chatting, and then how many minutes they're on the site when they don't chat and what that difference is. So we went through all the properties that we work with, right? So because by this time now we have plenty of properties that we can do the analysis on. And the to give you an idea, the range of time that is saved for a small property like ours, which has like 50 rooms, right? Is 8 hours for a month, right? So a full working day is saved. Now, I want to qualify that because I think each one of you all out there knows when you're trying to make an email and that email has to be customized because this person just asked three different things that is different from the next email, the amount of time that that takes is it can be long and a big pain in the neck. So when I say 8 hours for a small property like ours, that really doesn't take into consideration all that kind of editing and phone calls you have to answer with the same kind of questions. On the other hand, for larger scale properties, let's say 500 hotel rooms, even 250 hotel rooms, 3 days, 24 hours saved uh, because chat is answering their questions. Amazing.
Yeah, huge. Because from what I gather, it's still difficult to hire front desk folks.
Yeah, they turn over. They turn over.
They
Like
turn
they're
over.
in all. I know very few properties. Like if you are a property that has been able to keep your front desk staff over a 5 year period, hey, even over a 1 year period these days, you're lucky. Um, it's a rare thing these days.
Yeah,
And so you would be glad for somebody who's already stretched thin to not have to handle these sort of things and be fed qualified leads. That is, people who actually want to stay at your property telling you, yep, here I am. And that's what this virtual assistant does. It just grabs them.
yeah. Um, you use the term virtual assistants. I think chatbots have evolved, and yeah, it's a chatbot, but it's more. Um, And others are probably, again, other chatbots that have been around for a few years. They've evolved too. Like,
Yeah,
why do you use the phrase virtual assistant, and kind of what should a virtual assistant really be? Like, what are the top
yeah.
three things it should do?
Before I answer that question, I want to take you on a side trip here. So as a hotelier, I learned very quickly that guests do not care why the air conditioning is not working. They just want it to work. You know
Yep.
what I mean? And so to that same effect, um, hoteliers don't care what is under the hood when it comes to these virtual assistants or chat. Like, is it good? Will it work well? Just make it do what I want it to do, sort of thing. And what I spend my days doing, Jason, literally, I think you know that. Like all I do all day is like wrestle with large language models and Chat GPT so that they answer guest questions accurately every time consistently. Like that's all I do. I'm like, imagine this guy who's sitting here trying to like, why did it answer like that? I needed to mold it. So that's what I do in the background so that in the foreground, basically hotels get the right answer delivered every time, 24 hours, multiple languages. And that really is the basics of what this whole ChatGPT thing has done to the system. The chatbots of old would be looking for keywords to try to match up, what is the guest wanting and try to give them set answers. This thing is basically just think of it like a brain that you can throw your hotel data into, and it can understand everything you're saying. And it can go into that knowledge base, pick out the stuff that is relevant to the question, and hand it back. It can do it instantly, multiple languages, 24/7. And it can route to different members of staff if it needs to forward messages. It can allow staff to step into the chat if they need. It can suggest to staff what they might want to consider saying to the guest. It'll do all of it.
To me, it seems very easy, like an easy decision, but I think that there's still hesitancy on the parts of hotels,
Yeah.
and I don't know why.
Well, no, I totally understand why. In fact,
Okay.
the thing is that okay, so obviously there's a tech aspect of it. You have to be comfortable with tech in the first instance. But the other thing is that hotels are all about the human touch. You do not want to lose that. And what our properties have said are, listen, I have no problem with this being on the website because we never had anybody on the website anyway. This is helping answer those questions. I want to maintain my personal relationship with our guests by giving them, human interaction when they're at the property. And again, that's up for, another conversation. So, yeah, it actually is a very easy sell. It's just more of like an educational thing where hoteliers have to become aware, like, oh, okay, so this is what this does. It sits on a website. It's not like we have anybody on that website. It's a relatively small integration, inexpensive. It does its job. It grabs people and it stops them from going and booking it on Expedia. So it's great.
What's the risk level of the the responses being inaccurate or
Yeah, so the risk level is relatively low. I would say it's somewhere around 5%. But that's precisely why this mad scientist is sitting in here every day, like just grinding away at making sure there are zero. In fact, I just got off the phone with a developer, not our developer, but another developer, as to figure out exactly why the air conditioning is not working and get it to work right. So it's about 5%, but we're bringing that down further and further.
and I think a lot of chatbots or virtual assistants are powered by Chat GPT. I think yours is too.
Yep,
So, like again, you were alluding that that was really changing the game.
yep.
Maybe go a little deeper into that.
So we have a kind of a hybrid system, and that's how we're able to reduce these hallucinations. So what we're able
What's a
to,
hallucination?
pardon?
What is a hallucination?
Right, sorry, that's a good point. So just think of it as there's too much information and it starts to make stuff up. right? The system starts to make stuff up. And our job is to make sure it doesn't make anything up. And if it does, to catch it and not let that go out, right? And not let that answer be given to the guest. So our system is a hybrid system that uses some of the old technology and combines it with the new technology in a way to make sure it's all like covered. In the past, if this was what you had, which was the old canned answers, they're just too routine and they kept giving the same answers. When you put ChatGPT in with that, it covers the gaps. So the conversations are very like smooth and flowing. And the chances of the hallucination happening is much less because the old system is covering while the new system is making the thing more flowy. That's the best way I could describe it.
Is your um like I use Chat GPT at times for writing, and
Yeah,
I'll have to guide it along. Like I'll I'll tell the prompt refrain from using words like game changer, which is
yeah,
like, oh, come
yes,
on. So with response, so your clients are getting responses to the questions on their website,
yeah,
and it sounds like you're looking at those. They're looking at those probably, and you see something that you don't. It's like, I don't really want it to say that.
yeah.
Walk us through that.
Well, there's a lot of stuff like that. So, for example, there are guests who try to get on there and try to break the system. Like, I like to get a room for $1, right? And so we have systems in place to protect, right? So that can you imagine what a disaster that would be, right? That sort of thing is partially done with prompting, but there's also some guardrails that these large language models have in them. Others, I mean, there's very well documented situations where people who are bad actors want to go in and have the system start talk badly about the hotel, like
Mm,
write a poem about how bad this place is or something like that. And again, we that's done on multiple levels. And so that's what I do sitting in this, experiment lab, trying to make sure I'm plugging any kind of holes so that it can't do that. And then the customization happens where I'll give you an example. So first of all, let's say you have a hotel that's a sister hotel, like our sister hotel, right? In that instance, if they talk about, hey, can you recommend any other hotels? Our orders or our customization have to be such that we can tell it, yeah, recommend our sister property to them, right? Okay. But now imagine, or for that matter, a chain, right? You so you have to tell them that. But then now, let's say you have an independent property and there has neighbors, and the question comes, can you recommend me another place to stay? And the answer is, I'm sorry, this is what I know, and this is how much and I can't recommend it. And that's just a simple example. So it does happen partially through prompting, but those systems have guardrails to not allow malactors to get too far.
yeah. It sounds like the vast majority of what's happening through the virtual assistant are basic questions that your front desk gets tired of. They have a hard time getting to, and they get tired of answering those questions.
Yeah,
And it's instantaneous, but it all seems pretty pretty easy.
very easy. We're taking it to the next level. What we're doing, I don't know if you know that, Jason, but we're now starting to train that chat capability to become more of a salesperson. So it's because it's so conversational to be able to interject. By the way, have you seen our latest offering? Bang, hey, have you considered? So you can upsell, you can drive the conversation in certain directions. And I'll tell you, having to go through that, sales is not easy. But for a virtual agent that's been instructed as to not be too pushy, show this, don't do this in these circumstances with these prompts, which we're doing all in the background, the air conditioning works perfectly.
Yeah.
you know
You mentioned you were measuring um, time savings. I mean, virtual assistants, these systems have analytics. I mean, talk to us about the analytics that your customers can take a look at.
Yeah, yeah, we can see how far in advance they're searching. We can see how many nights they're searching for. We can see how many requests are coming in. We can see where they're coming in from. Um, we can see the trends in terms of, oh, these are the kind of questions they're asking. Maybe something is coming up in the future that the hotel needs to be made aware of. So yeah, we can see a lot. Obviously, we can see how many are clicking to book and how many people are asking for rates. The whole shebang.
Okay. It's good. It's a good conversation. I mean, we should probably wrap up at this point, but is there anything that, you want to hit on that we didn't get a chance to?
Yeah, I mean, on my end, I'm just caught up in that experiment lab, trying to make sure that nothing goes out. And that's the thing, because I'm a hotelier and I have a reputation, uh, and we have our clients. I tell them I'm not going live with anything until I'm absolutely sure that the damage is virtually nothing, like zero. Like, I'll give you an example. I was trying to figure out something about why is this thing saying it's $15 when the cost is actually $20, right? Like, that's the nitty gritty where we're in now. Um, so that if there is a hallucination, it's part of something, like, I am the guy to make sure the buck stops with me and nothing goes live until I'm good, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Very good. I like that. You're in the experimental lab.
That's all I do.
Well, this is great. I mean, I think virtual assistants are awesome, and I hope we see more adoption. It's kind of a no brainer, but
Yeah, it's an easy sell. Now it's getting, like, up to everybody's had these experiences. The problem is they've had negative experiences in the past. Now this is a new generation of virtual assistants, and that's part of the education that we have to kind of do.
yeah. Well, that's a good point because I think our experiences in other industries have improved.
Oh, yeah.
And
Oh,
so
definitely.
that should help quite a bit. All right, Nima. Well, I appreciate you spending time with me. This was good stuff.
Yeah, very much appreciative. And you never know. You might have a virtual agent coming your way, man.
Sounds good.
All right.
Thanks.
Talk to you later.